ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Stardust, a 2007 film directed by Matthew Vaughn, and it is a fantasy adventure film based on a novel by Neil Gaiman. Quick thank you to Ollie Pajak for letting me borrow the Blu-ray and to allow me to watch this film. So, Stardust, the plot of this film sees a young man cross a wall from England to this other kingdom where he meets a girl, and eventually they have a child together, and the boy is sent to live with his father in England. Later, the boy grows up and discovers the truth about his mother, so goes and seeks her, but he's also vowed this girl he likes to seek a star that's crash landed to Earth, so he can bring it to her as a gift for her birthday to prove his love. The star has been cut down from the sky by the king of the magical world to then have one of his sons, or a Mayware, finds the star so that they will become the new king. As the king is dying, so the young boy Christian finds the star whilst looking for his mother, and then he tries to get the star to Victoria. And along the way, the two have to work together for Christian to protect her from forces who seek to hunt her, because not only do the princes, the sons of the king, are after the star so that they can become king, as well as trying to get each other knocked off. But the star is also being hunted by a witch, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, who leads a trio of witches. Well, I say leads are kind of quite equal, but she's the one who goes out to get the star, tries to get the star. So all these parties are trying to locate the star, and for their own purposes, whilst Christian is just trying to get her back to Victoria, as well as protect her from the evil forces. And that's more or less the plot of Stardust. So, what do I think of this film? Great film. This is a really great film, really entertaining. First of all, got some really great characters. I really liked Christian. I thought he was a fun character, and he's, I suppose maybe you could argue he's like your typical young male hero that you get in fantasy adventures. But I think the character is enjoyable to overlook any potential cliches with the writing. I think he's written pretty greatly, so I definitely don't have any issues with him. The star play, not Yvain, played by Claire Danes, she's really good. She's kind of a bit of a stuck-up character to begin with, but she mellows throughout as the story goes on, and she starts to fall in love with Tristan. And over the course of the film, he starts to fall in love with her and realizes she's his true love, not the other girl who's already been courted by another guy. Anyway, so the course of the film more or less is the main story is the two of them getting along with each other and developing a romance, or at least discovering that they have feelings for each other before admitting their love for each other. And I think that works pretty well. Maybe there could have been a little bit more development on the romantic side, but certainly they developed the friendship side really strongly. And I do believe that the two getting together is believable, but I do think maybe there could be a tiny little bit more interactions on the romantic side, just a little bit, but it still works what we got. The main witch, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, she's a great baddie. She's not an outright evil villain. She's not, nor is she quite, is she heartless? Well, mostly not, but yeah, she's a great baddie and a great screen presence to have on screen, as are the other two witches, who we don't really see an awful lot of, but it's quite fun. Actually, funny enough, when watching the film, the Three Witches kind of reminded me a little bit like the Carrionites from the Doctor Who episode, The Shakespeare Code. And then a little bit more into that scene where we're introduced to the Three Witches, they actually started to act more like the Three Witches from Hocus Pocus, which is a fun film. That is a very fun film. All three of these witches seem to have a little bit of Bette Midler's character from Hocus Pocus, alongside bits of the other two, sprinkled across the three of them. So they're kind of they've cherry-picked bits from the Hocus Pocus witches and they've put them into these three witches, but all three of them have all of those bits, basically. Well, I say they cherry-picked, that's how it feels to me. it probably wasn't what they did, but that's how it feels. But they're quite fun witches. We also have this really fun captain character played by Robert De Niro, Captain Shakespeare, and he and his crew initially made to look like bloodthirsty pirates, sky pirates collecting lightning. But actually, Shakespeare's a really nice guy. He's quite fun and he's quite lovable. And he helps the main characters on their way. And yeah, he's a really fun character. So, gotta love Captain Shakespeare. Um, we also have a couple of princes on the look for the star. The main prince is played by Mark Strong, at least the main one we followed. Basically, the one who dies last. Spoiler alert. Because they're all three of them are already dead by the time the movie starts, and then the other four die across the movie. With Mark Strong's one being last, and he's the one we follow the most throughout the film anyway. So he's basically the last man standing in terms of the princes. And yeah, he's a fun character as we go across the movie. And although the scenes we get with him, not all of them are incredibly necessary, but there's still good stuff. And we also have a good character in the form of this servant to another witch, not involved with the other trio. And she is Tristan's mother and the sister to the seven princes who get knocked off. Therefore, her son is, of course, the last remaining male heir to the throne once Mark Strong's character gets killed. So Tristan becomes king in the end. Spoiler alert. But yeah, she's a good character. I don't think they actually explain how she got captured. She was a princess and then she got captured by this witch and then became her servant. It's not actually explained how she went from being a princess to being a servant. How did that happen? She doesn't explain that. Nobody says how. It's just she used to be a princess. She was the sister of these seven brothers, these seven princes. Ended up being a servant to this witch, not related to the other three witches. And then had some hanky-panky with a guy from across the wall, gave him the baby because she wasn't allowed to keep it. And then later the son turns up on a quest to find the star and eventually becomes the king. And funny enough, she's actually free. The servant is actually freed by the villain because the villain kills the other witch when the other witch. Well, she thinks the other witch is trying to come after the star, but it's actually the servant who's trying to stop her from crossing the wall. That and the fact maybe the other witch thought that Pfeiffer's character was Michelle Pfeiffer's character was talking to her servant when she was actually probably talking to the star, Yvain. But yeah, we've got quite a few great characters across this film and some really funny characters. We also got a couple of comic relief ones, such as the other princes. All of the princes come back as ghosts. At points, we got some funny interactions between them, and we also got some funny bits when Michelle Pfeiffer turns this man into a goat, and she takes him and his goats that he's already got with him, and she takes them both with her for a bit, and then later she turns the man back into a human, but this time it's a woman who's serve as a cover of being her daughter when she's built this inn, so it's a sort of a pretense, and she's turned the goat into a human, played by Mark Williams, and he's really funny. It's such a great couple of moments when we see Billy, the white goat, as a human. He's so funny. I say a white goat. The man who got turned into a goat was he had ginger hair, so he's an orange-brown goat in goat form. He gets turned back into a man later on. Poor old Billy, however, doesn't make it. He turns back into a goat, but then he's killed. I also have to say it's a shame that the unicorn character also, I think, gets killed. Just at least it's yeah, in the scenes with the inn, because it rescues the star at one point, and then it's at the inn, and then it's at the witch tries to block it, and then that's the last we see of it. So I'm wondering if it died, because it never returns in the film again. So I guess the unicorn is dead. It's also interesting that the stars guide Tristan to help Yvain, but just the one time they give him one. They just instruct him to do it and ask him to do it one time. So it's a bit of a shame that there wasn't more guidance or mentoring from them. But then again, I guess Captain Shakespeare became the mentor afterwards. So yeah. And speaking of fun characters, the guard guarding the wall is quite a fun character. Doesn't have a huge amount of role to do, but he's a fun character. Um, on a visual execution, there's a lot of great visual effects in this film, and the cinematography is really great. I will say this: when the billy goat does hit the wall, it does look a little bit fake, but then again, they couldn't use a real goat, especially if it's supposed to be dead. So I'll let them off for that. That's the only time it looks fake on a practical level. There's a few fake CGI moments, but they go past quickly. Most of the CGI in the film is brilliant. There's a lot of great stuff, and it makes the world look really real. It's also great on a practical level, as we get a lot of great practical scenes, and the locations are stunning. I think they filmed in Scotland, Wales, and Iceland. According to the end credits, there doesn't really say a filmed on location in this country, that country, that country, and at Pinewood Studios, England. It just says filmed on location at Pinewood Studios, England. So yeah, but they do mention that there was a unit in Scotland and a unit in Iceland, and they go to a few other places that give with thanks to. So from those, I think they filmed in Scotland, which is what I thought it looked like. Iceland and Wales. There could have been a bit in England as well. The only other place that it probably would have been mistaken for is possibly New Zealand, but not as hilly. So it was a UK Iceland location filming. This is a UK film, I believe, with US financial backing. I don't know if they filmed on sets or if it was an actual village, but the villages in both the human and not the human, in England and the other world are really great, and we get some great feels of the I think it's the Victorian age England and of this magical fantasy world, but still kind of within the same time zone, as opposed to say with Harry Potter. The Wizarding World in Harry Potter seems to have their clothes more reminiscent of, say, the Dark Ages or centuries 12 to 19, as opposed to the 20th or 21st. But for this story, I think the costumes and clothing that they have in the magical world are like that of the human world in England. So they're kind of on a similar level of this country, this time period's costuming. I don't really have a new awful lot more to say about the film, other than it's greatly edited, it's greatly shot and filmed. I have no problems with the visual execution, apart from a few fake CGI moments, but those are the very small and quick moments. You don't really notice them. The key ones that they need, they're done brilliantly. And the music is a good score by Iron Erisky, who I believe went on to score Johnny English Reborn and the two Shaun the Sheep movies. And he did a brilliant job with the Johnny English Reborn score and with the Shaun the Sheep film scores. This one, I don't think is as good as those three scores, but I think he does a good job with it. It's some good music, and it's also great to hear "Take That, We Can Rule the World" in the end credits. I actually looked this up on YouTube. Listened to it later on. I think it's about a minute longer than the original version. I don't think it might just be an extended version, but yeah. So Stardust is a great film. It's a really enjoyable fantasy adventure, and yeah, just some really brilliant stuff. My only real nitpicks is that there's a few fake moments, but not really that noticeable ones. They're blinking, you'll miss it. It really is only minor issues with this one. So overall, I will be giving Stardust a well-deserved 9 out of 10. Perfect, although I only do have a few minor issues, but I don't think it's quite 10 out of 10 material, but it's certainly quite close, hence the 9. Even with the minor issues not so noticeable, it probably wouldn't quite crack 10, but again, still very close, possibly even closer. Okay, maybe you might even have cracked that 10 actually. Regardless, it's still a really good and really fun and enjoyable film, and I highly recommend checking it out. Once again, thank you to Ollie Pajak for letting me borrow the Blu-ray. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. And so he then gets the star to take with him. He's I think he's still quite an interesting although he may be slightly a little bit, maybe he's a little bit, I don't know where, no, actually, no. When I initially watched them, but then not later on, but these three witches certainly felt a lot like the three witches from that film, except that they kind of all had a bit of each one of those three. Each had a not only did they have one person, except all three of these seem to have quite a bit of the Bette Midler character. Except, but yeah, they're quite fun. Who actually turns out to be well, as I say, turns out we already know that. Who is in fact Tristan's mother, and has been trapped as a servant. Is also the prince, who is also, yeah. There's a few bits that besides that, I think this film looks pretty spectacular. That's the only time it looks fake. The rest of it, spectacular, some brilliant visuals, that and a few CGI stuff. That and a few CGI stuff, like with the King's Hall towards the very end with all the candles and stuff, and some of the wood forests. There's a few notable CGI. So yeah, it was probably mostly UK with a bit of vibe. I think where the clothes are a lot more reminiscent of centuries far back in the 20th or 21st century, with the exception of casual clothes, with the exception of casual clothes from the Muggle universe. So, but with this film, I think the costumes are more or less contemporary with with England as the. But I think the costumes I think he definitely did the two Shaun the Sheep movies. I think he definitely did the two Shaun the Sheep movies. I think he also did John English Reborn, and that was a brilliant score for John English Reborn. Really great score. It's probably the best of the three John English film score. Actually, no, I loved the first one's score. I think if I looked this up on YouTube a little bit later on. I think it's slightly longer than the main version. And I think the story is still pretty strong, but yeah. So that's really only my minor issues. I mean, there could have been a few others, but it's still a do 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 do.